Ethan had always loved the forests of Leora Prime. Even after months of walking among its glowing trees, he never tired of the way their leaves shimmered in soft shades of green and blue. Every step he took on the mossy ground released faint sparks, tiny lights dancing around his boots as if the planet itself noticed his presence. He liked that. It made him feel like the planet was alive, watching, even welcoming him. The day had started like any other. Ethan's routine was simple. He wandered the forest, studied the flora and fauna, collected samples, and recorded data for the colony back on the plateau. Most of his work involved sensors and scanners, charts and reports, but sometimes the quiet moments in the forest felt more important than anything he could log into his tablet. That's when he noticed something strange. A soft, rhythmic humming floated through the trees. At first he thought it was the wind or perhaps the vibrations of some strange plant, but the sound had a melody, curious, almost musical. Ethan froze, his heart beating a little faster. He scanned the shadows between the glowing trunks and saw it. She stood there, framed by the soft light of the bioluminescent flora. Ethan could hardly believe his eyes. The alien girl was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin glowed faintly, not in the harsh way of neon lights, but in soft, flowing patterns, as if her body itself was a canvas of living light. Her eyes were enormous, round, and silver, reflecting the forest around her. Her hair, or what looked like hair, flowed behind her in strands that shimmered and shifted color with the movement of the wind. She was beautiful in a way that made words useless.
Ethan whispered under his breath without thinking, "She's probably the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." The words were so soft he thought no one could hear them.
But he was wrong. The alien girl's head tilted slightly, and the patterns on her skin pulsed in soft waves. It was subtle, but it was a response. She had heard him. For a moment, neither moved. Ethan's curiosity clashed with a sharp spike of fear. Humans had never encountered an alien like her before. She could have been dangerous, intelligent, even hostile. Yet the way she looked at him was not threatening. There was a cautious curiosity in her gaze, like she was studying him as carefully as he was studying her. Ethan took a careful step forward. I'm not going to hurt you," he said. The words felt ridiculous, even to him, but he could see the effect they had. Her glow shifted again, softening, flowing like calm water. She stepped out from the shadows, her movements smooth and precise, almost floating. Her hands, delicate and long-fingered, hovered near her chest. She didn't need to. Her presence was enough to make Ethan's thoughts scatter. "Do you understand me?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. A strange hum escaped her lips, a sound that was both musical and clear in the way of a message. Ethan's translator device, which he always kept in his pocket, vibrated lightly. He adjusted it quickly and held it up. "Try this," he said, activating the device. A soft tone emitted, designed to interpret alien vocalizations into human speech. "Curiosity acknowledged," the device translated. The word sent a thrill through him. Not only could she hear him, but she could communicate. Ethan took a deep breath. He had to be careful. The colony would not be happy if he brought an unknown alien here, but at the same time, this encounter could change everything. "I'm Ethan," he said, holding his hand slightly out in greeting. She mirrored him, slowly extending her hand, delicate and luminous, the tips of her fingers glowing brighter as they drew near his. When their hands met, a small shock of energy passed between them. Not painful, but startling. Ethan felt a wave of calm wash over him. He realized then that this alien species might not only communicate with words or gestures, but through something deeper, something almost emotional. "Where did you come from?" he asked. She tilted her head, and a soft pulse traveled across her arms and chest, lighting patterns that seemed to respond to his words. The translator picked up faint traces of meaning, though incomplete. Ethan understood fragments, travel, from stars observing, peaceful. His heart leapt. She wasn't a threat. She wasn't a scout sent to spy or destroy. She was exploring, observing, and perhaps curious about him, about humans. They spent hours like that, Ethan moving slowly through the forest, showing her plants, pointing out small creatures scuttling across the glowing moss. She watched everything with wide silver eyes, tilting her head and letting soft hums escape her lips. Sometimes her skin pulsed brighter, faster, almost as if she was laughing in her own way. By the time the sun, or the equivalent on Leora Prime, started to dip behind the horizon, the forest turned a deeper shade of blue, and the glowing plants lit up like stars scattered on the ground. Ethan realized how long he had been out there.
"We should go back," he said reluctantly. "The colony, they'll worry if I'm gone too long." She hesitated.
Then she mirrored him, walking cautiously beside him. Her steps were light, and Ethan felt a strange sense of comfort. The forest seemed to respond to her presence. The leaves glowed a little brighter, the air warmer, as if the planet itself approved of their interaction. When they reached the edge of the forest where the colony's lights glimmered in the distance, Ethan felt a pang of fear. How would he explain this? The humans might not understand. They might react with hostility. She stopped at the tree line and looked at him. The patterns on her skin pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan knew somehow that she was trusting him, offering a fragile bridge between their worlds. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. I don't know if they'll believe me, if they'll." He trailed off, unsure. She stepped closer, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. A warm glow spread across him, calming the fear and tension. It was a gesture of trust, and Ethan realized he felt it deep in his chest. "I'll figure it out," he said finally, more to himself than to her. "I'll find a way to help them understand you." Her response was a soft hum that translated as trust, patience. Ethan nodded. For a moment, he thought he understood. Patience, trust. Two things humans often struggled with, but perhaps they were exactly what was needed to make this impossible connection work.
He watched her for a few more moments, then finally, she stepped back into the forest.
She disappeared among the glowing trees as silently as she had arrived, leaving Ethan alone at the edge of the colony.
He stood there for a long time, staring at the forest.
He could still feel the warmth from her touch, the soft glow of her skin, the melody of her hums echoing in his mind. For the first time in his life, he realized how small, how limited human perception could be, and how much more there was to the universe than anyone had ever imagined. When he finally turned to go back to the colony, he felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The first step of something extraordinary had begun, but the path forward was uncertain. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, how humans would react, or what this alien girl truly wanted, but he knew one thing for certain. He would not forget the moment he whispered those words, and she heard them. And somehow, somewhere, he felt it had changed everything. Ethan took a deep breath and began walking back, the forest behind him glowing softly, as if watching, as if it too understood that something remarkable had begun. And somewhere in the shadows, silver eyes watched him, bright and curious, carrying the promise of a connection that could change not just a colony, but humanity itself. The next morning, Ethan woke with the memory of the alien girl, Lyra, still fresh in his mind. Her glowing skin, the soft hums, and the way she had looked at him, so full of curiosity, kept replaying in his thoughts. He knew he had to see her again. But the forest could be dangerous, not because of her, but because of the planet itself. Leora Prime had surprises at every turn, from glowing predators that prowled silently to plants that reacted aggressively to movement. Ethan dressed quickly and packed his equipment: scanners, his translator, and a few supplies in case he had to spend more time in the forest than planned. He also grabbed a small container of sweetened fruit extracts, something he thought she might enjoy. He didn't know if she ate the same way humans did, but it felt like a gesture that mattered. The colony's sensors picked him up as he slipped past the perimeter. He ignored the faint alarms. He had to find Lyra first. The forest welcomed him like it had the day before. Soft blue and green lights shimmered on the moss and leaves, guiding his path as if the planet itself remembered his steps. Ethan paused at a clearing and scanned the area. No movement, no hums. He took a slow, careful step forward. Then he heard it, a soft, melodic hum, faint but unmistakable. He froze and scanned the shadows. There she was. Lyra was sitting on a large root, her legs folded beneath her. Her glowing skin shifted in waves as if reflecting the light of the trees. When she saw him, her silver eyes widened just slightly. She wasn't startled. She was waiting. Ethan approached slowly, holding out the container. "I brought something," he said gently. "I don't know if you'll like it." She tilted her head and reached toward the container with delicate, glowing fingers. She touched it lightly, and a faint pulse of light ran through her arm. Ethan held his breath. The translator device vibrated softly, capturing the faint hums she made. The translation was incomplete, but a few words came through. Appreciation, trust. Ethan smiled. It wasn't much, but it was progress. He put the container down and sat a short distance away, careful not to crowd her. She mirrored him, lowering herself gently to the ground. For the next few hours, they explored the clearing together. Ethan showed her the strange bioluminescent plants, the small, glowing insects, and even the tiny creatures that crawled through the moss. Lyra's hums varied in pitch and rhythm, and each time the translator captured fragments of meaning, patterns, life, connection. Ethan realized she wasn't just observing. She was trying to understand, and in some way he felt she was trying to understand him, too. Humans often underestimated alien intelligence, thinking it would be simple or mechanical, but Lyra's curiosity was sophisticated, emotional, and patient. She wasn't dangerous. She was extraordinary. As the day passed, Ethan noticed something else. The patterns on her skin shifted more rapidly when she was near him. It wasn't random. It was a form of communication. He couldn't read it yet, but the intention was clear. She trusted him. She was responding to his presence, his gestures, his voice. Eventually, the sun, or whatever light source governed Leora Prime, began to dip again. The forest deepened into shades of darker blue, and the glow of the plants became more pronounced. Ethan realized he had spent nearly the entire day with her, and he had learned more about another species in a few hours than most humans learned in a lifetime. "We should head back," he said reluctantly.
"The colony will worry." Lyra hesitated. She didn't move immediately.
Then she stood and mirrored his actions, walking beside him. Her presence was calm, and her glowing patterns seemed to flow in harmony with his steps. When they reached the edge of the forest near the colony, Ethan's heart sank. They weren't alone. A small group of human soldiers and scientists had spotted the glow from the trees and were moving toward them cautiously.
"Ethan!" one of the scientists shouted.
"Step away from the... whatever that is." Lyra froze, her body glowing brighter, the patterns shifting rapidly. Ethan raised his hands. "Wait."
"She's not dangerous. Please just observe."
The humans hesitated. Their fear was clear. They didn't know what she was, and she was unlike anything they had ever seen. Ethan stepped closer to Lyra, putting himself between her and the humans. "She's intelligent," he said firmly. "She's curious, peaceful. She came to observe, just like we observe this planet." The soldiers exchanged wary glances, but they didn't advance. One of the colony's senior scientists, Dr. Rains, stepped forward cautiously.
"You can't just bring an unknown alien creature near the colony," he said. It could carry diseases. It could be hostile. We don't know anything about it.
Ethan shook his head. That's exactly the point. We have the chance to understand, to communicate. We can't just assume it's dangerous.
Please, give me a chance. Dr. Rains hesitated.
There was tension in his eyes, a mix of fear and curiosity. Finally, he nodded slowly.
Fine, but you'll bring her back to your lab for observation. We need data, Ethan. We need to understand what she is.
Ooh. Lyra's eyes met Ethan's. Well,
He could see the uncertainty in her gaze. She didn't speak words humans could understand, but the soft pulses on her skin conveyed emotions clearly. Fear, caution, and trust.
Ethan turned to the humans.
If you want to study her, you have to let her move freely first. She won't cooperate if she feels threatened.
Reluctantly, Dr. Rains gestured for the group to step back.
Ethan held out his hand to Lyra. Come with me, he said softly.
We'll go slowly. She hesitated, then took his hand. The contact sent a calm wave through Ethan's body again. It was subtle, almost like a gentle vibration of trust. Together they walked toward the lab, with the humans following at a safe distance. Once inside the lab, Ethan set up a small area for Lyra, with soft lights and plants from the forest. He hoped it would make her feel more comfortable. She explored slowly, touching surfaces lightly, humming softly. Her glow adapted to the environment, flowing in calm, rhythmic patterns. Ethan observed her closely. We have to figure out how to communicate better, he said.
There's more to you than the translator can capture. Lyra's hums seemed to respond to him. The glowing patterns on her skin shifted and flowed, forming shapes and sequences that felt like language, but not like anything Ethan had learned. He took out his tablet and began recording, trying to match her patterns to the sounds. Hours passed. Ethan was exhausted, but he didn't want to stop. Every moment with her was a chance to learn, to understand, to build a connection. He realized that humans often rushed to control what they didn't understand. But patience, attention, and trust were far more powerful. As night fell, the lab's lights dimmed, and Lyra finally rested near a corner of the room, her glowing skin soft and steady. Ethan watched her quietly, thinking about the incredible species she represented, the untapped knowledge and wisdom in her eyes. He thought about the first moment he whispered those words in the forest. She's probably the most beautiful girl I've ever seen.
It had been true in a physical sense, but now he understood it meant more. It wasn't just about beauty.
It was about recognition, about seeing her as a being with thoughts, feelings, and intelligence. That simple moment had started everything. A soft hum broke the silence. Ethan leaned closer to the translator. What is it? He whispered. The device caught a few words. Trust, learning, future. Ethan smiled. That was enough for now. Tomorrow, they would continue. He would learn more about her species, and maybe, just maybe, he could teach humans to understand, too. He looked at Lyra, sleeping peacefully for the first time since their meeting. Her glow pulsed gently in the darkened room, a rhythm that was almost like breathing. Ethan realized that this was the beginning of something extraordinary, not just for him or for the colony, but for humanity itself. For the first time, he felt a deep sense of purpose. Leora Prime was not just another planet. It was a place where humans could discover something far greater than technology or resources. They could discover connection, understanding, and perhaps a new place in the universe among other intelligent beings. Ethan sat quietly for a long time, watching her. He thought about what he would say to the colony tomorrow, how he could convince them to see her as she truly was, not a threat, not a curiosity, but a living, thinking being with emotions as real as his own. And somewhere in the quiet of the lab, Lyra stirred, her silver eyes opening slightly. She looked at him with recognition, and for a moment, no words were needed. Trust had been built. Curiosity had been shared, and the first true connection between human and alien had been formed. Outside, the forest glowed under the twin moons of Leora Prime. Inside, a new kind of light shone in the lab. It was subtle, quiet, but it promised change. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and for the first time, humanity had a friend among the stars. Ethan closed his eyes, exhausted but determined. Tomorrow they would continue. Tomorrow they would begin to bridge the gap between worlds. And in the silent hum of the lab, Lyra's glow pulsed softly, a rhythm that said, without words, that she was ready too. The forest of Leora Prime had a different feel that day. A strange tension hung in the air, subtle but unmistakable. Ethan noticed it as he prepared for another session with Lyra. He packed his tools, sensors, and translator, double-checked the portable lights, and stepped toward the lab where she rested. Lyra was already awake. Her glow was soft, calm, but something in her silver eyes told Ethan she sensed it too. Something was coming. He approached slowly.
"We'll go to the forest again," he said gently, "but we need to be careful."
Lyra tilted her head, pulsing in slow patterns. The translator caught the hums. Caution, change, alert. Ethan nodded. He understood. She had already picked up on something in the environment he couldn't yet detect. Humans had tools and scanners, but aliens had senses humans could not imagine. Lyra had a kind of perception that made Ethan feel small, unprepared, and strangely reassured at the same time. As they entered the forest, Ethan explained slowly, "We're going to explore, but we must watch for anything unusual. The colony might have sensors watching too, and other humans may follow." Lyra hummed softly, glowing patterns flickering like waves. It was her way of showing understanding, of agreeing. They hadn't gone far when Ethan's scanner beeped rapidly. He froze. The readings were chaotic, showing movement, but not like the usual wildlife. The energy signatures were too consistent, too mechanical.
"Something's coming," Ethan whispered. Lyra stiffened.
Her glow pulsed faster, and her hums rose in pitch. She stepped close to Ethan, almost protective. Her presence calmed him in one way but alarmed him in another. He could feel that the forest itself seemed to react to her. Branches shifted slightly, lights dimmed, and the creatures of the underbrush scuttled away. From the shadows, they emerged. Humans. Soldiers. Not colony scientists this time, but a small rogue group, armed and cautious. They had tracked Ethan's movements and now approached the forest with clear intent, capture or control. Ethan held his hands up.
Wait! Don't come closer!
"She's not dangerous." The leader of the group, a tall man with a cold, hard stare, shook his head. "We don't know that. We've tracked strange energy signals here. Whatever that is, we're taking it back with us." Lyra stepped in front of Ethan, glowing brighter, her patterns swirling faster. The translator picked up her hums. Threat, protect, run. Ethan grabbed her hand. "We can't let them take you!"
"Not like this. We have to move."
With a quick motion, he activated his portable lights, temporarily blinding the humans, and they ducked into the thicker parts of the forest. Ethan led her through narrow paths, moving as silently as he could. He glanced at the scanner. More signals were approaching. They weren't alone. The forest became a maze. The bioluminescent plants shifted and swayed as if guiding them, opening small gaps in the dense underbrush. Ethan realized that Lyra's presence seemed to affect the environment. The plants responded to her in ways he could barely understand. It was as if the planet itself was helping them. Lyra moved beside him, her eyes scanning constantly. She touched the glowing walls of moss and leaves, and her hums filled the air with a strange rhythm. Ethan noticed that each pulse of her light made his movements smoother, faster, more precise. They were in sync, human and alien, moving as one through the alien forest. Suddenly, the path opened to a small clearing. Ethan froze. Ahead, mechanical traps had been set. Tripwires, small drones, and sensors. The rogue group had anticipated their escape route. Lyra's glow intensified. Her hums became urgent. Danger, careful. Ethan crouched low, thinking quickly. He remembered the small river that ran nearby, its waters glowing faintly in soft blue. He pointed toward it. "This way," he whispered. Lyra followed without hesitation. They slipped into the water, which carried them downstream quietly. The rogue humans were momentarily slowed by the traps and sensors, giving Ethan and Lyra a crucial lead. As they floated, Ethan noticed the water reacting to Lyra's presence. Soft ripples of bioluminescence spread from her, creating a glowing path that masked their movement. It was beautiful and terrifying, like the forest itself was alive, defending her. After a long drift, they reached the riverbank. Ethan pulled Lyra out and crouched behind a massive tree. Both were breathing heavily. He looked at her and saw that her glow had slowed, the patterns calming again. "We made it," he said softly, relief in his voice. Her hums responded, "Yes, safe." "Thanks," Ethan smiled, though his heart still raced. He realized something important. Humans often underestimated alien intelligence and emotional depth. Lyra wasn't just reacting. She was planning, adapting, helping them survive. In a way, she was smarter than many humans he knew. They rested for a moment, hidden under the thick canopy. Ethan took out a small energy bar and offered it to her. She hesitated, then touched it lightly. A pulse of light ran through her arm, conveying appreciation. She didn't eat it like a human would, but she acknowledged the gesture. Ethan laughed quietly. "I guess we're learning different ways to share, huh?" Lyra hummed in response, and the translator picked up a few words. Understand? Patience, connection. It was a reminder. Humans often rushed. They assumed control and dominance. But the forest, the planet, and Lyra herself were teaching him a different way. Observation, patience, and trust. They moved cautiously through the forest, searching for a safe path back to the lab. Along the way, Ethan noticed more subtle changes in the environment. Creatures that had previously fled now peeked curiously from behind rocks and plants. Trees swayed gently as if watching, guiding them. He realized that Leora Prime was not just a backdrop. It was alive, aware, and responsive. Hours passed. Ethan and Lyra found a hidden path that led them to a small cave, hidden behind hanging vines and glowing moss. They entered cautiously. Inside, the air was cooler, and the glow from the walls created a soft, calming light. Ethan sat down, exhausted.
"We need to think about our next move," he said. "They won't give up easily."
Lyra sat beside him, her glow dim but steady. She hummed softly, and the translator caught fragments. Strategize.
Ethan nodded. "You're right. You're right."
We need a plan. But first, we rest.
Then, we figure out how to show the colony you're not a threat before someone tries to take you by force again. They stayed in the cave for a while, Ethan observing her.
He was amazed at how intelligent she was, how much she understood without words. He realized humans often judged other beings by their physical appearances or actions, ignoring the subtle signals of thought and emotion. Lyra was teaching him that intelligence and understanding could exist in forms humans couldn't even imagine. As night fell, Ethan felt a strange sense of wonder. Despite the danger, despite the rogue humans, he knew this was a moment that could change everything. The connection he had with Lyra, fragile and new, was powerful. It was proof that humanity could learn, grow, and reach beyond its own limitations. He lay back against the cool stone, looking at the glowing patterns on the cave walls. Lyra rested beside him, her glow pulsing gently, like a heartbeat in the dark. For a moment, the danger outside the cave faded. There was only trust, understanding, and the quiet promise of something greater. Ethan whispered, almost to himself, "We'll get through this, together." Lyra's hums responded, soft and steady. The translator interpreted, "Together." Safe, hope. For the first time, Ethan truly believed it. Hope wasn't just a human concept, it was universal, and with Lyra by his side, he felt humanity had a chance to prove itself in ways beyond war, beyond conquest, beyond fear. As they settled for the night, Ethan thought about the colony, the rogue humans, and the future. There would be challenges, more danger, and moments of fear, but he also knew that human curiosity, resilience, and empathy, his empathy, could bridge the gap between worlds. And that gap was not small. It stretched across species, planets, and stars. Yet, for the first time, he didn't feel overwhelmed. He felt ready, and somewhere in the darkness, Lyra's silver eyes watched him. The forest outside remained quiet, but alive. Every leaf, every creature, every shimmer of light seemed to whisper the same message. The universe was bigger than fear, and humanity could rise to meet it. Ethan closed his eyes, finally allowing himself to rest with Lyra's glowing form beside him. Tomorrow, they would face new dangers, new humans, and perhaps new revelations about Leora Prime itself. But tonight, they had survived. Tonight, they had each other. And sometimes, Ethan thought, that was enough to change everything. The morning light of Leora Prime filtered softly through the cave's entrance, illuminating the smooth walls and glowing moss. Ethan stretched and blinked against the brightness, still feeling the lingering warmth of Lyra's presence beside him. She stirred as well, her skin pulsing gently, silver eyes opening to meet his. Her gaze seemed to ask the same question he was silently considering. What next? Ethan's first thought was, the colony. They had to know about her. Properly, this time. The rogue humans might still be searching, and if the colony misunderstood Lyra, the situation could spiral into disaster. He stood and began preparing, gathering his devices, sensors, and the portable lights. Lyra followed him, curious but calm, humming softly as she touched the glowing walls. They emerged from the cave into the forest. The air was crisp, filled with the subtle hum of alien insects and the occasional flutter of glowing wings. Ethan took a deep breath. The forest had survived the previous day's chaos, and so had they. He hoped it was a good omen. When they approached the colony perimeter, sensors picked up the unusual energy readings from Lyra. Alarms sounded faintly, prompting humans to gather at the observation posts. Ethan raised his hands, signaling for patience. "She's not dangerous," he called. "Please, just watch for now." Dr. Raines arrived first, accompanied by a few scientists and soldiers. Their faces were a mixture of astonishment, fear, and curiosity. "Ethan! Doctor!" Raines said, voice tight. "You can't just bring her here. We need containment protocols. We need to understand what she is before she interacts with anyone." Ethan shook his head firmly. "She's intelligent. She can communicate."
She's not a threat, but she won't stay if she feels trapped.
"If you want to study her, you need to let her move freely, observe her, and build trust. Forcing her into a cage will accomplish nothing but fear." The humans exchanged uncertain looks. Some were clearly uneasy, while others seemed intrigued. Lyra's glowing patterns shifted subtly as she walked beside Ethan, almost like she was trying to convey her own reassurance. The translator picked up soft hums. Peace, trust, understanding. Dr. Raines hesitated, but nodded slowly. "Fine. Controlled observation. No one approaches unless she consents." "Ethan..." exhaled quietly. "Thank you." They led Lyra to a controlled observation area near the forest's edge. The space was spacious, filled with natural flora and soft lights mimicking the forest's glow. Lyra touched the plants and walls with gentle curiosity, her glow shifting in response to each new texture and scent. Ethan activated his tablet, recording the interaction. "We'll start slow," he explained. "I'll ask questions and you can respond however you want. The translator will pick up what it can, but I think there's more to your language than it understands." Lyra hummed, glowing in a calm, rhythmic pulse. The translator interpreted, ready. "Share. Observe." Ethan smiled. "Good. Let's begin." He asked simple questions at first, about her species, her home, her travels. The translator struggled with the nuances, capturing fragments. Far, stars, peaceful, observe, learn. Ethan scribbled notes furiously, understanding that her species valued knowledge and empathy above all else. As the day progressed, Lyra demonstrated astonishing abilities. She could sense energy patterns in the plants, communicate with the glowing insects, and even anticipate Ethan's movements before he made them. She seemed connected to the forest in ways humans couldn't imagine. Ethan realized she was not just intelligent, she was attuned to life itself. Then the alarms from the perimeter blared loudly. Ethan froze. Rogue humans had returned, more organized this time, equipped with advanced scanners and containment tools. They were determined to capture Lyra. Ethan's heart raced. "We need to move," he whispered. "Now." Lyra's glow intensified, and her hums became urgent. The translator captured fragments. Danger, protect, escape. Ethan nodded. He had a plan. "Follow me and stay close. I'll lead them away from the colony." They moved quickly through the forest. The rogue group followed, trying to anticipate their path. Ethan and Lyra ducked under glowing vines, leapt across small streams, and wove through dense foliage. The forest seemed to respond to Lyra, clearing paths and masking their energy signature from the scanners. It was as if the planet itself was aiding them. After a tense journey, they reached a large clearing. Ethan glanced around. There was a natural formation of rocks and plants that could serve as a temporary barrier. He gestured for Lyra to stay behind it. "We can hold them off here," he whispered. Lyra's glowing patterns shifted rapidly, as if calculating possibilities. The translator interpreted strategy, delay. Careful, Ethan activated a few of his devices, portable light disruptors and energy pulses designed to confuse electronic scanners. The rogue humans approached cautiously, their devices failing to lock onto their exact position. Ethan and Lyra moved silently, using the clearing's natural cover to their advantage. The standoff lasted hours. Ethan observed the humans' movements, predicting their tactics based on previous encounters. Lyra's glow shifted with each new calculation, almost as if she was communicating options without words. Ethan realized that human intelligence and alien intuition together created a synergy far stronger than either alone. Finally, the rogue humans retreated temporarily, realizing that capturing Lyra without force was impossible. Ethan and Lyra remained in the clearing, catching their breath. The translator captured her hums. "Safe for now. Alliance. Trust." Ethan smiled.
We've bought ourselves time, but we need a longer-term solution.
The colony needs to see you for who you are, intelligent, peaceful, and capable of communication, not just some mysterious energy signature to be captured. Lyra's glow softened, forming gentle waves across her body. The translator interpreted, "Agree? Patience. Teach. Humans." They returned to the lab, moving carefully to avoid further detection. Ethan explained to the colony what had happened, emphasizing the intelligence and empathy he had observed in Lyra. Dr. Rains listened, skepticism still in his eyes, but even he could not deny the patterns of trust and cooperation he had seen between the human and alien. Ethan proposed a controlled demonstration. He wanted the colony to witness Lyra's abilities firsthand, not as a threat, but as a living, thinking being, capable of communication. The humans agreed reluctantly. The next day, a small group gathered in the observation area. Ethan guided Lyra through a series of interactions. She responded to questions, demonstrated understanding of energy patterns, and even anticipated simple gestures. The colony scientists and soldiers watched in awe. The translator struggled to capture every nuance, but the visual patterns of her glowing skin told a story words could not convey. For the first time, many humans realized that intelligence and emotion were not limited to their own species. Lyra's species had a form of communication that transcended sound, relying on trust, empathy, and perception. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity could learn, adapt, and connect, but the rogue humans were still out there. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. He also knew that Lyra's presence posed a question for humanity. Would they choose fear and control, or understanding and cooperation? Lyra seemed to sense his thoughts. Her glow shifted in soft, comforting waves. The translator picked up fragments. Hope, humans, potential. Ethan smiled. He had hope too. Hope that humans could rise above fear, that they could embrace the unknown, and that humanity could prove itself worthy of the wider universe. The day ended with the colony slowly accepting Lyra. Not everyone was convinced, but enough humans saw the truth. She was peaceful, intelligent, and capable of deep connection. Ethan and Lyra stood together, watching the glowing forest outside, knowing that challenges remained, but confident that they could face them together. As night fell, Lyra's silver eyes met Ethan's. There was no need for words. The trust between them was clear, and the quiet pulse of her glow seemed to say, together, they could teach humanity something extraordinary. And somewhere beyond the colony, the rogue humans retreated into the shadows, plotting their next move, unaware that their actions had only strengthened the bond between human and alien. The forest of Leora Prime shimmered softly, alive and aware. Within it, Ethan and Lyra had begun to build something new, a bridge between species, a lesson in empathy, and a proof that humanity could rise to meet the unknown with curiosity, courage, and heart. And in the quiet of the night, the stars above Leora Prime twinkled as if in agreement, bearing witness to the first steps of a story that could change not just a colony, but the future of humanity itself. The morning on Leora Prime was crisp, the air carrying a faint hum from the forest. Ethan woke with a sense of purpose. Today would be the day they proved to the colony, and to the universe, that humanity could rise above fear, embrace understanding, and form connections beyond their own species. Lyra was already awake. Her silver eyes glimmered softly in the early light, her glowing patterns steady and calm. Ethan approached her slowly, offering the small container of fruit extracts. She accepted it lightly, her hums translated by the device. Ready? Share? Hope? Ethan smiled. Let's show them who you really are. They moved carefully toward the colony. The observation area had been prepared for a demonstration. Scientists and a few cautious soldiers waited, still uncertain, still skeptical. Ethan felt their eyes on him, the weight of their judgment pressing down. But he pushed it aside. This was bigger than skepticism. It was about trust, understanding, and what humanity could become. As they entered the area, Lyra's glow shifted in elegant patterns, her hums gentle yet full of life. The humans watching were initially frozen in awe. They had never seen such a being, so radiant, so alive, and yet so clearly intelligent. Ethan began explaining. This is Lyra. She is not a threat. She is a living, thinking being. She came to observe, just like we observe this planet. She can communicate, understand, and share knowledge, but only if we treat her with respect. The translator captured fragments of Lyra's hums. Peace, learn, connect. The humans leaned closer, curiosity growing despite their lingering fear.
Ethan guided Lyra through a series of interactions.
She mirrored gestures, responded to simple commands, and demonstrated remarkable sensitivity to energy patterns in the room. Small devices that humans had assumed were tools for studying her were no match for her intuition. She anticipated their movements, adapting gracefully, almost playfully. One of the scientists, Dr. Rains, watched closely. Skepticism lingered in his expression, but he couldn't deny the evidence. Lyra's responses were consistent, intentional, and intelligent. There was no trickery, no instinctive animal behavior. She was a sentient being. Then, the alarms sounded. Ethan froze. His heart sank. The rogue humans had returned, more determined than ever. They had apparently tracked him and Lyra once again and intended to take her by force.
Not now, Ethan muttered. We're not letting this happen. Lyra's glow intensified, her hums sharp and urgent.
The translator interpreted, "Danger, prepare. Protect." Ethan nodded. "We'll do this carefully."
But all these monies we get into in Tilda, we've opened App 2.
Stay close. The rogue humans approached, armed with containment devices and scanning tools. Their leader shouted orders, but Ethan ignored them. He raised his hand, signaling to the colony. "Step back. She is not to be harmed." "Stand down!" The rogue humans hesitated, confused by the defiance of the colony members.
Ethan took a deep breath.
"If you try to take her by force, it will fail. She is not just strong. She's intelligent, adaptable, and this planet itself responds to her."
You cannot control her, but we can all learn together.
Lyra stepped forward beside him, glowing brighter, the patterns on her skin forming waves and spirals of light. She hummed a melody that vibrated softly through the air, resonating with the very ground beneath them. Ethan felt a subtle surge of energy, almost like an invisible shield forming around them. The rogue humans tried to advance, but the environment shifted. Vines grew rapidly, creating natural barriers. Bioluminescent insects swarmed in patterns that confused scanners. Even the small wildlife seemed to respond to Lyra's presence, moving strategically to block intruders. The rogue humans stumbled, struggling to adapt. Ethan realized then how powerful their teamwork was. Human intuition, alien intelligence, and the living forest itself had become a single force. It was not about weapons or dominance. It was about understanding, strategy, and connection. Lyra's hums grew melodic, the patterns on her skin forming intricate designs that projected soft light into the clearing. The translator interpreted fragments: observe, learn, respect, choice. Ethan understood. She was showing the humans that control was not necessary, that cooperation was far more powerful than force. The rogue humans hesitated, unsure how to proceed. The colony members watched, some slowly realizing the truth Ethan had been trying to explain. Fear and aggression were not the answers. Respect and understanding were.
Ethan stepped forward. See her for who she is.
She is not an enemy. She is proof that humanity can rise above fear, beyond assumptions, and connect with beings unlike ourselves. She is a friend. The rogue leader scowled, but even he could not deny the display before him. Lyra's glow shifted, now soft and welcoming, a stark contrast to the sharp pulses earlier. Her hums conveyed calm and trust. She was not surrendering. She was teaching. Slowly, the rogue humans lowered their containment devices, confusion and awe in their eyes. They had come seeking control, but they were met with intelligence, empathy, and power that was not violent. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Humanity had the chance to rise, to prove that they could act with wisdom instead of fear. Lyra approached the edge of the clearing, her glow forming delicate, interweaving patterns. Ethan followed. She extended a hand toward the colony members, inviting them to participate in the demonstration. Hesitant at first, a few stepped forward. The air seemed to vibrate with connection. The translator captured more of her hums, understand, share, cooperate, future. Ethan spoke quietly to the colony. This is what it means to be human. Not just to survive, but to reach out, to connect, to learn. We have the opportunity to rise above fear and embrace the unknown. The scientists and soldiers began to mirror Lyra's gestures, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. Energy patterns shifted in response, plants and creatures reacting to the collective harmony of humans and alien. The clearing glowed like a living tapestry, evidence of connection, not conflict. Ethan looked at Lyra. "We did it," he whispered. She hummed softly, her glow pulsing in gentle waves. "Together..." Humans, potential. The rogue humans retreated, finally realizing their mission had failed. They had underestimated not just Lyra, but humanity's capacity to learn, adapt, and cooperate. Ethan felt a sense of relief, but he knew the real work had just begun. Over the next several days, the colony slowly integrated Lyra into their research. She shared insights about the forest, its life forms and energy patterns humans had never noticed. Her ability to perceive and communicate with the planet's ecosystem transformed the colony's understanding of Leora Prime. Ethan continued to work closely with her. They explored deeper into the forest, documenting alien flora and fauna, learning from one another. The bond they shared became stronger, based on trust, respect, and a shared sense of wonder. The colony's perception of aliens changed as well. Scientists and soldiers alike began to see Lyra not as a threat, but as a teacher, a guide, and a friend. Her presence was proof that humanity could embrace connection over fear, empathy over aggression. One evening, Ethan and Lyra walked through the glowing forest. The light of the bioluminescent plants reflected softly on their faces. Lyra hummed a gentle melody, and Ethan could feel the rhythm of the forest itself aligning with her. "You've changed them," he said quietly. "And you've changed me." Lyra's silver eyes met his, glowing softly. The translator picked up fragments. "Learn. Trust. Grow." Together, Ethan smiled.
Yes.
Together.
They reached the top of a hill overlooking the colony.
The lights of the settlement twinkled below, a mixture of human technology and the natural glow of Leora Prime. Ethan felt hope swell in his chest. This was only the beginning. But already the possibilities were extraordinary. The rogue humans were gone, at least for now. But Ethan knew the universe held many unknowns. Despite that, he felt confident. Humanity had something stronger than fear or weapons: curiosity, empathy, and the courage to reach beyond themselves. Lyra stood beside him, glowing softly, her silver eyes reflecting the stars above. Ethan realized that this moment, this connection, was more valuable than any discovery, any technology. It was proof that humanity could rise to meet the unknown with heart, mind, and courage. For the first time, he understood what the whispers in the forest had meant. Beauty was not just physical. It was intelligence, trust, connection, and the ability to see beyond oneself. He had whispered those words months ago in awe, and she had heard him. Now humanity itself had heard her message. The forest hummed around them, alive and aware. Lyra's glow pulsed in gentle waves, echoing the rhythm of the planet, the colony, and the growing bond between species. Ethan took a deep breath. "We're ready," he said softly. "For whatever comes next," Lyra hummed in agreement. "Ready together." And under the twin moons of Leora Prime, human and alien stood side by side, a bridge between worlds, a testament to empathy, courage, and the limitless potential of humanity. The stars above seemed to shine brighter that night, as if acknowledging a promise kept, that humanity could rise, could learn, and could connect beyond fear, beyond limits, and beyond themselves. Ethan watched the colony below and felt a quiet pride. They had survived, learned, and grown, and he knew deep in his heart that humanity's story among the stars was only beginning, and with friends like Lyra, that story could be extraordinary. The forest whispered around them, the lights pulsing softly, and the universe felt vast, alive, and full of promise. And somewhere in the glow of the forest, Lyra's voice hummed. Together. Hope. Future. Ethan smiled, taking her hand. Yes. Together. For the first time, the impossible felt possible, and in that moment, humanity had truly begun to reach for the stars.